And here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Sovereign Community Call, episode 56. I'm your host, Englandia, the head of ecosystem growth. Sovryn is the number one Bitcoin DeFi DEX in the universe, in the metaverse. Um, and we're here to deliver some updates and maybe take some questions from our fellow contributors. So we have some exciting agenda items today, including Bitocracy 3.0, the Builder Portal, the P&L Competition, and the D2 migration. So I'm going to welcome Edan Yago up to the stage to offer some updates. Yago.
Hello, Sovrins. Great to connect with everyone again. As Englandia pointed out, we've got quite a lot to cover today. I'd like to start with two important pieces of sort of meta context, not directly related to Sovryn, but important nonetheless. So, both have to do with trade and in particular centralized exchanges. The first point is that we are currently seeing, and in August, we saw the lowest trade volumes and the lowest amount of spot trading that the Bitcoin and crypto industry have seen in, depending on who's counting, 4.5 to 5 years. So we are at very significant lows in terms of transactional activity and user activity, and this impacts and has downstream effects on everything. So it impacts trade activity, but it also impacts the number of people who are engaging with all projects, the opportunities for growth, opportunities for fundraising, new projects launching, everything. This is an important piece of context, first of all, because we too have seen lower trade volumes, and it also impacts the ability for us to grow other aspects of Sovryn, as well as key things like sovereign dollar demand. One thing that I've frequently said in the past is that during the bear market, my experience has always been that the key thing we need to be focusing on is survival. After survival, we need to be focused on building, and that growth is a distant third priority because it can be a fool's errand to try and attempt to grow significantly against the headwinds of the macro market, and an overinvestment in that can prove to be a strategic error in terms of focus and resources. I'm also of the opinion that when we are able to grow in the bear market, which we have managed to do, particularly in the first half of the year, it is a minor miracle, and we should be extremely proud and excited for what we're managing to do, but we shouldn't take it for granted. And so that's one piece of important context. Related to that piece of important context is we're also seeing significant disruption across the centralized exchange world. And people that I've been talking to who have reason to know, either because they're invested or because they're large market makers, are very concerned about some of the centralized exchanges that are out there and their solvency. One particularly important exchange, which is Binance, there's mixed information around that. People who are deeply engaged with Binance have communicated to me warnings about its potential solvency. At the same time, it is doing relatively well in terms of its trade volume, maintaining its trade volumes relative to other large exchanges. Um, and Another exchange that I've experienced trouble with personally recently, and some of you may have as well, is Ascendex, where there have been problems with drawing different assets, including SOV, and I've heard from others the same. This is a really good reminder that centralized exchanges are not safe, and that when the market turns sour, they are the least safe they will ever be. And There is some outside potential for us to see additional exchanges stop withdrawals, or perhaps go under entirely. That could potentially prolong a bear market, but also, and I'm sure this is something that everyone on the call is aware of, but it's worth reiterating. It's important to preserve your own assets and make sure that you are not exposed to undue counterparty risk. And this is a big reason for why we are building Sovryn. And a lot of the call today, we will talk about a lot of the progress that we've made in making sure that Sovryn is secure, decentralized, and sovereign in terms of being able to be censorship resistant and permissionless. If we could go to the next slide. All right, we can just go to the next slide. So, coming back to the progress that we're making here, the next slide, please, Ingebar. All right, so we also spoke about this slide last community call, and we've set for Sovryn a 3-stage plan, 3 big phases in terms of moving towards achieving our ultimate goal. The first stage, develop a true Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem. Having built that, providing important tools through that. The next stage is for us to improve the technological foundations upon which we are building, and open up the opportunity to many more people to build an entire economy on Bitcoin. And for that, we need trustless Bitcoin rollups, which, once we have that, will ultimately allow us to move into stage 3, which is building a world on Bitcoin, a world where everything from community and civic interaction, the internet itself, data, privacy, governance, and of course property and money can be managed and secured by Bitcoin, and use BTC as the base asset. We've made a huge amount of progress on this front, and we are very, very close to effectively having done everything that we set out to do in terms of stage 1. We've built by far the biggest Bitcoin DeFi ecosystem. We've put out all of the core primitives that we intended to, and have basically covered the entire first half of the original black paper. One of the things that we put out was, so we've done the trading and the lending, the ability to have leverage, Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, and one of the other components from a product or feature perspective was a perpetual swaps, which we thought was a key primitive. We've constructed and released that as well, but we currently don't have the technological infrastructure to run it the way we would like. And so that will have to come again with the move into stage 2. But we still have a few pieces which are crucial to making sure that we feel confident to say that we have accomplished what we set out to do for the alpha stage of Sovryn. One of those is having a much cleaner and more robust front end, which is also accessible and therefore uncensorable via IPFS as well as Tor. That is what we've been calling DAP 2.0 or D2, and that is very near completion. We will have rolled out effectively all of the primary components of that by the end of this month, we expect, with the possible with one key exception, which is margin trading. We've discussed some of the concerns around margin trading in the past. We'll discuss it a little bit more today, and we can definitely take questions on it. The other aspect, and I think this is probably the most exciting part, is that for Sovryn to truly be decentralized, permissionless, uncensorable, and governed by Bitocracy, the contracts themselves all need to be governed by Bitocracy as well. This is a difficult thing to achieve in a system which needs to evolve and where things need to be modified with changes in usage and changes in market activity. And in fact, most so-called DeFi projects are not far along on this path. And there's a term, DINO, decentralized in name only, which I think applies to, unfortunately, most of the crypto ecosystem. However, we've been hard at work on this and have set it as a core goal, and most of that work has already been done. Most of the contracts are already controlled by Bitocracy. But we are at a point now, and if we can go to the next slide, where we can say that we are now ready to begin the transition process to Bitocracy 3.0. Bitocracy 3.0 will mean that we'll need the participation here of the community of SOV stakers to vote in control over the entire platform to Bitocracy and effectively have Bitocracy run in a way where no individual or group of individuals who are targeted or exposed or compromised in any way can be said to be managing the system. So we have we've now reached a point where we are a couple of weeks away from being code complete on what is required in order to do this transition. And then there will be a transition process. We will need several steps to make this happen. We'll need to educate participating on this. And so it won't happen overnight, but we are basically at the end of the beginning for this, right? We're positioned now to start kicking off that process, and that is an extremely exciting accomplishment. And I'm really pleased that we can be doing this, and that I'm part of an effort which is making this happen. Part of the part of what also will make this now smoother and easier is we will also have a new interface in DApp 2.0 for Bitocracy, for voting, for managing stake. And so, we're really now at a place where something that we set out to do a little over 2 years ago is coming to fruition. So big congratulations to everyone who worked on this, and a round of applause to the Sovryn team and the Sovryn community on this. Well done, everyone. All right, I think that's it from me. We can talk about it a little bit more towards the end of the call, but I'm handing the floor back.
Thanks. Could you then please just go to the next slide? And the next. Thanks. So, since we spoke the last time, we had a few releases on Sovryn.app. We migrated the landing page as well as the staking and reward pages. We have fully defined wallet support on both apps now. There were issues before with the mobile app, which are now resolved, and also the issues with the Gnosis Safe integration are fixed. And here a shout out to the Protofire team for reporting the issue in the first place. Apart from that, we released the first version of the build-up portal, finally, and Sovryn is going to tell you a bit more about it just after my update, so I'm not going to go into further detail here. Next slide, please. We had intended to release this sooner, but things took longer than expected. Also, we found a few more things we can improve in terms of lowering the gas costs and just reducing the number of requests we need to send to the node for loading the reward pages. So this process of improving the fee share claiming took a bit longer than expected, but we are now about to deploy to testnet, finalize the QA process, and then also deploy the fee share claiming efficiency improvement onto mainnet very soon. The other thing we've been working on was a more granular access management, so additional admin and parser roles on the loan tokens, also known as lending pools, and protocol contracts. And this is part of the preparation for the transition to Bitocracy 3.0, because when we are transitioning the ownership of the contracts to the Bitocracy contracts, we want to make sure that we are, or the Guardian multisig is able to pause the contract if there is a serious issue, where Bitocracy would be able to unpause again and also replace the Guardian if necessary, if the Guardian would turn malicious. But it is important to have a Guardian in place, just because Bitocracy cannot act immediately. There's always a delay because of the voting period and the time lock period. Also, the additional admin roles are necessary because we have two different sets of Bitocracy contracts or governor contracts. One is for the ownership and the other one for admins, with different time lock periods after the vote's finished. Torolf, could you please mute yourself? All right. So the loan tokens and protocol contracts will be updated soon, which is another prerequisite for the Bitocracy transition. We are about to enable sovereign dollar margin trading. This still needs to be enabled on the smart contract side, as well as the front end side, and on the different backend services which are existing, like limit orders and vouchers, just to make sure that the positions are being rolled over and liquidated if necessary. And most of the preparations have already been done, and we are now looking to enable it very soon. On the new app, under Sovryn.app, we are now working on the borrowing page and are about to release that one. There is more work in progress, which is not as soon to release. If you could move to the next slide. We are also working on the Bitocracy migration, which Jago already mentioned. So there's going to be the Bitocracy app on the new app, and also a UI for creating Bitocracy proposals. On Bitocracy 3.0, we finished most of the scripts for transferring the ownership, as well as creation of the different SIPs which are required, and are now doing the final reviews. It means we are checking again the scripts, see if there's anything missing, if we oversaw something, and When that's done, we can go ahead and create also the new save multisig for the Content Guardian, and I'll just get this transition started. The other thing which is still in progress is the Bitcoin token bridge, which I already talked about very briefly on the last community call. Last community call, we were still in the research phase, but now we are in the prototype phase. So we are creating a prototype for bridging Taproot assets to and from ERC20s on RSK. And we are positive to be able to show a prototype on testnet very soon as well. And I think those are the most important things which are currently in progress. So thanks very much. This is my part of the update. So you can move on to the next slide and to the next person to present.
Thank you very much, Aurora. Thanks, Ingerlandia. Thanks, Aurora. So we can go to the next slide. Awesome. So I'm Solbit, front-end lead at Sovryn, and I'll be covering an exciting new update for you guys today, something I'm particularly excited about as a developer. So as part of Sovryn's migration from Alpha, we've been working on a project that will help document the developer resources and tools that we use at Sovryn. So we've called this the Builder Portal. And this aims to promote the growth of our ecosystem and provide a one-stop shop for developers, designers, or product owners who would like to build on or with our protocol. So previously, as any of the developers amongst you will probably know, we've created documentation for the various products that we offer. However, these sit in a variety of locations, not all of which are easy to find by non-developers that are interested in learning more about our products and features that we offer. So with an aim to unify all of this, we've now put together a single location for all of our documentation, which covers multiple areas of the Sovryn protocol. So we've got resources for the design aspects of obviously primarily focused on our front-end development, but we've shared our brand guidelines as well as a number of other assets created by our excellent design team. And we've shared them in a single location for you, including information on all of the front-end development tools, code standards, and libraries that we've created. So I think we shared a sneak peek of our Sovryn UI library in the past. This is something that we've constructed during the course of developing our new DApp. The aim was to build something that could be used to develop a nice mobile conscious DApp. However, also expose this as something that anybody who wants to build on the Sovryn ecosystem can use, assuming some amount of front-end experience, and build something that looks and feels like our new dApps. We've also got content related to smart contracts. So for those looking to integrate with the Sovryn protocol, whether it's via the AMMs or other areas of the protocol, we've got documentation to cover you there. We have also got a section with SDK content. So some of the things that we've been developing within my team, we wanted to make them usable by other projects without having to spend a lot of time from Sovryn Core's side liaising with developers and kind of working with them in a kind of manual fashion. So we've packaged up some of the stuff that we've been working on over the past few months. Some of that I've listed here. So we've got documentation around our new smart routing package. This is used within the new DApp on the conversion page, and it's previously discussed in a bit of detail a couple of weeks ago. But this will basically allow, when a user is making a swap between two specific assets, we have a variety of swap routes that could be used. So one of those is the Sovryn AMM. We've also got the Mint aggregator, so that's a dollar aggregator, as well as I think we've got money on chain integrations in there as well. And we can build off of this, so there'll be more swap routes coming in the future. All of that's going to be integrated into our smart routing package, and with this package as a standalone thing, this is going to be usable both within Sovryn core DApp as well as by other projects. So it's fairly plug and play, and we've already had a couple of third parties interested in using that. Sorry, did someone want to say something? No? Okay. Then we've also got SDK content around wallet connection library. So for those who have used the version that we had in our alpha DApp, we have got a new, brand spanking new version of our wallet connection library. That's used in DApp 2.0, so Sovryn.app. And I think that's actually being used by the Babelfish team in their DApp as well now. Then set of documentation around the graph. I think a couple of community members have been engaging with us and actually being good guinea pigs on this particular product over the last couple of months. We've now put the documentation related to that in the same location as everything else. And so with all of that stuff, that should give a nice set of coverage across the entire protocol in our ecosystem around the tools and products that we offer. As always, with documentation, this is going to be a living set of documentation. It's not just a static set in stone. As we develop new products, as we get feedback from the community and developers, we'll be updating this with more content to come. So we are going to be promoting this across various channels in the near future. So calling all builders to come and start working to build up the new Sovryn ecosystem with us. For more information, you can check out the documentation itself over at build.sovryn.com. Or we set up an integrations channel in our Discord server. So if there's any third parties out there looking to integrate with us and you want a bit of guidance around that, feel free to reach out on our Discord itself. And for anybody who, whilst you may not be a builder, but you are an excellent copywriter or have something to contribute to this documentation, we do welcome contributions. There are instructions within the Builder portal itself on how to contribute to both the individual areas of the stuff that we're exposing in this documentation. So if you're a coder and you're interested in contributing to front-end development, please, there's a contribution section specifically for that. If you're a copywriter and you want to tighten up some of the language in our documentation, feel free to contribute there as well. We have the Builder portal documentation set up as a GitHub repository, so you can proactively submit suggestions to us via that method, or if you are more interested in talking through it with somebody from our side, you can reach out to us on Discord with any suggestions, ideas, and that kind of thing. So really looking forward to sharing more updates about this and other development related projects for those who like to build in the near future. So stay tuned, folks. That's it from me. Hand over to the next presenter.
Thank you, Ingalandia, and thank you very much, always, for a very interesting presentation. Next slide, please. I would like to speak about the trading challenge that we've had earlier this month. I will go over some stats, and then I'll speak about the upcoming trading challenge that we expect to have at the end of this month. So, one of the goals of the pilot challenge was to increase AMM trades quantity, right? This challenge, I should note, was sponsored by IOV, creators of Woodstock, our chain, and they are very interested in increasing transactions. So one of our goals for the pilot was to do just that, and indeed we've incentivized the different goals of the pilot. About half of them were around amount of transactions, and the incentivization worked quite well with, as you can see, over 103% increase over the previous 4-week average. Next slide, please. There were 50 seats in total available in the trading challenge, and out of those 50 registrations, 32 were active participants, so participants that have performed at least one trade, which is a 64% participation rate. And it should be noted that I think of the total, about 15% were responsible for most of the transactions. So the top traders did most of the activity. If there are questions, I'll be happy to answer at the end. Next slide, please. Yeah, like I said, you can see in this graph on top, this is all of the participating wallets, the participants, and the top ones did most of the action. Top 14% or 90% of the transactions. Yeah. Next slide, please. So coming up next is a different format of competition, a profit and loss skill-based challenge, a trading challenge, where we will have two categories: net profit and loss and percentage profit and loss, where participants will be encouraged to profit and then profit more with rewards. I don't have a final number on the dollar amount of rewards. In the pilot, it was $3,000 because it was, again, just a pilot. But here, I expect it to be at least $12,000. So we are looking at a 2-week challenge where we'll give away awards at least 12K. The next slide will be presented by One Digit, the team member in the adoption team, to explain how exactly we're going into calculating profit and loss. Next slide, please. One Digit, the floor is yours.
All right. So we're looking at two different criteria for the challenge. One is the overall profit and loss. The other one is average profit and loss percentage, averaged over the trades that take place. We won't be looking at overall wallet balances, but only tracking actual transactions. So if you have 100 Bitcoins sitting in your wallet, which would be nice, we're not going to look at that unless you trade 100 Bitcoin. Look at the part that you trade. So we'll be tracking position changes in dollar, SOV, and RBTC only when swaps or trades are made among those three. So dollar for SOV, SOV for dollar for RBTC, RBTC for dollar, SOV for RBTC, or RBTC for SOV. So if you trade out of one of those assets into something like XUSD, that will not be tracked at all. So we're looking at two things. One is the value of the position changes. So if you sell dollars and buy RBTC, we're going to track the value of that change in your wallet over time. So we'll do that in two ways. One is we'll look at the profit and loss based on the the position change for each trade and sum that up, and that'll be the total profit and loss. And by the way, these profit and losses will be calculated in sovereign dollar. That'll be the base unit. Also, we'll look at each individual trade and calculate a percent return based on the profit and loss divided by the total size of the trade in dollar. And then we'll average up those percent returns to get an average percent return. So that's another way you can do it. If you're a small trader and you don't want to devote a whole lot of funds or don't want to risk a lot of funds, you can just go for the percent win. But if you want to put more funds on the line, then you can go for overall profit and loss. So just as an example of how this will work, let's look at, say you make 3 trades. In the first trade, you trade 10K sovereign dollar for RBTC at a price of 26K. So that means now you are down 10K in dollars and you're up 0.38462 in RBTC. So we'll track that as a position. You've taken on a position of positive position in RBTC and a negative position in dollar. Then you purchase RBTC with 20K SOV and the exchange rate is 104K SOV per RBTC. So now you're down 20K in SOV and you're up 0.19231 in RBTC. And then for a third trade, you decide you're going to trade out of RBTC. So you sell 0.5 RBTC for sovereign dollar, and the price is 1/25K for that. So now the price has changed from what it was originally at 26K. So now you sell the RBTC, so you're down 0.5 RBTC, but you're now up 12.5K in sovereign dollar. So we can calculate a percent return for each of these lines, each of these trades, and that will give us a percent. We can get a percent profit and loss for each trade. Then we'll just average those to get the average. For the total, you can think of it as we just sum each of these columns. So the net position change for dollars is 2.5K plus. SOV is down 4.6K SOV, and then RBTC would be up 0.07692. So we just simply price each of those out in dollars. Dollars is 2.5K. SOV, we would multiply that by the current price of SOV in dollars, and then we would multiply RBTC by the current price in dollars and just add all that up, and that gives you the total P&L for the whole competition. And so we can track that for current price, whatever it is, and then ultimately for the final price at the end of the competition is when we'll decide it. But we'll track it throughout and have a leaderboard showing where people's position or what people's net position is and their average P&L throughout the competition. That's it.
Englandia, maybe before we take some questions, I got a couple of things I'd like to say. So I want to talk about some challenges and dilemmas that we have that we should all be aware of. So one dilemma that we've discussed is the dilemma around margin trading, how much to invest in refreshing margin trading. And the key thing here is we've seen that slippage can be high, especially on margin trades, which tend to be much larger because people are taking out larger trades using margin. And that slippage can have an impact on margin trades when you're opening them as well as closing them, as opposed to a swap where it impacts you only once. So we've seen that the potential profitability of margin traders has been lower than it should be, leading to a bad user experience because of the slippage. We have been working towards a solution to this, which is introducing the ability to have a request for quote, a RFQ system where market makers can offer low slippage prices. We've made a lot of progress here, and I think it's now starting to look likely that we will be able to introduce an RFQ system sometime in the near future, which would substantially improve all types of trading, but potentially would open up the window for us to look at margin trading more seriously. So for now, our expectation is that margin trading will remain in DEP 1.0, but not be migrated to DEP 2.0, and that it would make sense to reopen this conversation. And we'd really appreciate having this conversation in all the various forums and on these calls about how we should think about the investment in margin trading, because every investment that we make is, a trade-off versus other things that we could be investing time in. The challenges that we've had around slippage and trading are also related to the challenge of increasing sovereign dollar demand, and margin trading definitely can increase sovereign dollar demand. However, it isn't the primary issue. The primary issue that we've experienced in terms of the sovereign dollar is providing dollar-based liquidities that can be taken off-chain, and in particular allowing people to bring other types of stable assets, which they can then swap for sovereign dollars and earn money on the Babelfish incentive curves, which have now been introduced and are revving up, as well as take advantage of the lending and stability pool opportunities in sovereign. Another aspect of this was integrating sovereign dollar more deeply into Exodus and other wallets so that those audiences and users would have exposure. And core to all of that was the requirement for us to have much more substantial bridges to other chains and more sophisticated bridges which would allow smart contract interactions to start on one chain and end with another. A lot of what we've been building has been built around the assumption that we would have those bridges. And we've received assurances and guarantees from IOV Labs that these bridges would be in place, and actually were ready to have been in place. Unfortunately, this has not happened. And this is a significant setback because it substantially reduces our ability to bring in new users, new audience, new funds, and make it easier for you and other users of Sovryn to move funds in and out. The levers, many of the levers that we expected would be falling into place, or would have already by this time, have fallen into place, both around trading and around the sovereign dollar, have been delayed. And I think it's important that we recognize this, and we're dealing with it, and we're looking for solutions. But because this is an additional piece of significant chain level infrastructure, it's not a trivial problem for us to solve, and so I wanted everyone to be aware of the challenges that we've been having on this. And with that, I think Englandia, maybe questions.
Yeah. Hey, Englandia, this is Vic, Lord Alvic. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. You just check. It was doing a mic check. One comment, one question. So, just for the group to be aware, I continue to promote Sovryn with the Chamber of Digital Commerce as one of the only DeFi projects that are based on Bitcoin. which is one of the least controversial assets in Washington, D.C. So just letting you guys know that, spreading the message, one of the faithful, that kind of thing. My question that came up during this call was regards to the bridge. Given the the main issue that the DeFi community has seen, has not been the collapse like you see with the centralized exchanges, but it's been with bridge hacks. Are we providing sort of extra bounties or code reviews or what have you as we go down another bridge? Just wanted to get some thoughts on that. That's all I had. Thanks.
Lord Elvic, can I ask which bridges are you referring to? There's three, I think. I'd like to make a distinction between. We have the existing fast BTC relay bridge. We have an enhanced fast BTC relay bridge, which would allow for taproot assets, and then we have the bridges we already have and potential future bridges to other crypto chains. Which are you referring to?
Well, that's a great call out, Yago. I think at one in general, what's our posture? I know we've already had the BTC bridge up, but I was referring to the update from Oreo. The tap bridge comment just provoked the questions. So I guess I would say, are we having enhanced security on new releases because they've got less time, right, for an optics? And then what do we have a general position that we believe makes us safer than bridges out in the wild that have had exposure?
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to start by saying we already have a bridge which is operated by federators using Sovryn nodes and constructed by the Sovryn team, the very same team that built Fast BTC. And it has worked flawlessly for the last 2 years. However, it doesn't have all of the features and functionality that we would like. It can be more expensive. It doesn't integrate with nearly as many bridges as we would like to bridge from, and it doesn't have the ability to transact across chain while using smart contracts. It's also the case that we don't like the fact that Sovryn nodes and the Sovryn brand are engaged with the bridge at all. Despite whatever efforts we make around security, there is the potential for a hack. And because it's not, we don't even have a path without very, very significant investment to a truly trustless bridge. This is something we would prefer would not be part of Sovryn. And so we've been looking to use other bridges. We are also looking into technologies which would actually allow for pretty much trustless bridging. That can and will come in the future, I have no doubt. But for now, we would be looking to use the premier bridges that already exist and have track records, and ideally we would have multiple different bridges. And there, I'll have to say, the ability for us to ensure any degree of security is very, very limited. So using those bridges would and should be assumed to have exactly the same risk as any type of bridging activity. And that is just the reality of the current state of the art.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pooling liquidity, you mean providing liquidity to the AMM? I would need to check. Stolby, do you maybe know out of the top of your head when that's being scheduled?
No, sorry.
let's just see, find it quickly. If it is on the Yeah, very sorry I can't answer this right now. I do not remember, and Light is not here on the call. I would need to just look.
Yes, nothing's changed in terms of Exodus's interest in the project. If anything, I think they're even more excited. I spoke with JP, who's the CEO of Exodus, 2 days ago. But we have been blocked in our ability to perform the key pieces of integration that we wanted due to the lack of bridging. There's not an easy way for their users to bridge their assets in, convert to SOV or Sovereign Dollar or RBTC. There's not an easy way for us to integrate with their built-in swaps. And this has been frustrating, to say the least. DJ Philly is asking about originations and when we expect to reopen originations. I think this is a very important question, and I think the way it should be managed is from the community. I've had a bunch of time to think about this and related questions since SIP 66, and my view is that this is not a deeply technical question. It's a question of the liquidity and the revenues of the system. And all of that data is available. We don't have any special access to that data. So I'm looking to set up a call next Wednesday in the continuation of the governance calls around issues like this. But one of the key things that I would like to encourage, and DJ Philly, I know we've discussed this on Telegram in the past, is to see community members step up and take a much more dominant role in that. We don't have any special information, and this is like a key thing which the community is engaged with, is important to the community, and everyone has opportunity to do analysis. And so I think it's really a perfect opportunity for us to see a much more dominant role played. And so ultimately, I would like to see that question debated by and the decision taken by the community.